Hi, I'm Laurie, and I never thought the woman I welcomed into my family would turn my hospital bed into a battlefield. While I was hooked up to machines, my daughter-in-law was out there selling my house, smiling like she'd already buried me. Folks think betrayal comes loud, but hers came dressed in kindness, wrapped in family. And when I found out what she did, I didn't scream. I signed one paper and ended everything she built. But you'll never guess how it all unfolded. The smell hit me first, sterile, sharp, like bleach mixed with metal. Cold air seeped into my gown, biting my skin like it had something to prove. I blinked up at the flickering light above my hospital bed, its rhythm ticking louder than the monitors. I reached out instinctively for warmth, for a voice, for someone, anyone. My fingers came back empty. I expected to see Kailon's tired but kind eyes, maybe Janelle's giggles filling the corners of the room. But only Trishonda came in, lipstick perfect, phone in hand, screen glowing like she was about to win an award for best daughter-in-law in a drama nobody asked to see. "Hey, yo," she chirped, flashing that same fake smile she wore at church potlucks. The phone turned toward me. Look who finally woke up. She was live streaming. My heart knocked against my ribs. My hair was matted, eyes swollen, mouth dry from anesthesia, and she was broadcasting me like I was part of some twisted morning show. I heard her say it soft, but not too soft. She acts so pitiful for sympathy, always the victim. I lay still, not because I couldn't move, but because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. On her screen, I saw names pop up. Deacon Harris, Sister Laverne, even Mrs. Collins from 2 doors down, watching me, laughing emojis dancing next to their names. She knew what she was doing. Hospitals are supposed to heal, but sometimes they just strip you bare. I kept quiet. But silence don't mean surrender. It was a storm in my chest. Kailon came in half an hour later, still smelling like yesterday's cologne. He gave me a look half apologetic, half unsure, then glanced over at Trishonda like he needed her permission to breathe. "She okay?" he asked, voice low. Trishonda didn't skip a beat. "Your mom's been dramatic again. You know how she gets. Dramatic. That's what she called this?" Kailon shifted, rubbed the back of his neck. I saw it, the hesitation. The years of being torn between honoring me and avoiding confrontation. I raised him to think for himself, but maybe I raised him too tired. You can't teach gratitude, my mama used to say, but you can show what dignity looks like. I opened my mouth to speak, but Trishonda waved a hand like I was a fly. "She don't need to talk. Rest is what she needs." The camera flashed again. She was still recording, still pretending, still performing. Something in me curled up and burned quiet. That's when I knew this wasn't about family anymore. If I ever sign anything again, I thought, it won't be my silence. Later that day, when the sun had dipped behind the city buildings, I asked the nurse for the tablet. My fingers shook as I searched. I found her page faster than I wanted to. There I was, lying in bed, mouth half open, eyes glazed. Some people just don't know when to stop being a burden. The comments? Laughing emojis. She always looking for attention. Even one from Kalon's cousin. Ain't she always sick around tax season? My breath caught in my throat. Everything inside me dropped. That kind of shame don't come from what folks say. It comes from who says it and how quick they are to believe it. A soft voice broke through my fog. Miss Laurie? I looked up. A young nurse, maybe 22. Kenya. You don't deserve this, she said. Just like that. She didn't try to fix it. Didn't offer prayers or pity. Just the truth. She became my anchor in that moment. Not a life raft, just something solid to hold on to. I deleted my Facebook account right then. But the wound didn't go with it. That night, sleep didn't come easy. Instead, memories did. I saw myself years back sitting in a bank office, signing a loan to help Kalon and Trishonda buy their first home. The banker smiled, said it was rare to see a mother so generous. I smiled back. I was proud. Helping your child get ahead, that's what love looks like, right? My husband's voice echoed in my mind. Don't hand your keys to people who don't own your heart. I didn't listen. Back then, Trishonda was sweet, helpful, said yes ma'am and thank you. That changed the day she got her name on that deed. I saw the shift small at first, like when she stopped making coffee before I woke up, then bigger locking the mail, managing the bills, calling the shots. I thought I was imagining it until I couldn't anymore. Now here I was no control, no respect, no voice. The hospital stay wasn't the betrayal. It was the confirmation. The next morning, a nurse came in with a manila folder. Discharge papers, she said. I opened it slowly. Tucked between the insurance forms was a document I didn't recognize, property transfer authorization. My name was signed at the bottom, but I hadn't held a pen in 2 days. I stared at the signature, my name, but not my hand. They didn't just humiliate me, I whispered. They robbed me. I folded the paper, pressed it against my chest. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I waited. The cold wind slapped my cheeks as I stepped out of Gwen's car. I clutched the strap of my purse tighter and approached the house I once called home. My key paused at the doorknob, but the lock didn't catch. I tried again, nothing. Same house, different welcome. Before I could knock, the door creaked open. Trishonda stood there, baby Janelle on her hip, wrapped in a pink fleece onesie. That smile, again tight, too rehearsed. Didn't expect you back so soon. Behind her, Kalon lingered in the hallway. His eyes caught mine, but he looked away like the floor had something important to say. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My suitcase sat on the porch like an afterthought, like trash day came early. Trishonda adjusted Janelle, then said it casual, like she was commenting on the weather. Thought you were going to stay with Auntie Gwen a while longer. I stepped back, heart steady but heavy. They had changed the locks. Without a word, without a warning, I looked at that front door, not just wood and hinges, but where birthdays were baked into cakes, where I prayed over fevers and first day school jitters, where I buried pieces of myself so they could rise stronger. They forgot I built this house with love, I thought. But love ain't blind. It just has good manners. That evening, I sat curled on Gwen's couch, the old space heater clicking behind me. My fingers ran over the edge of the paper again. That document, the one with my name at the bottom only, it wasn't my handwriting. That ain't yours, Gwen said for the third time. No, it ain't, I said softly. She leaned forward, brows furrowed. You need to take this to the police, Laurie. This is criminal. Not yet, I replied, folding the paper. Let them think I'm broken. I remember the day I signed a mortgage standing at the bank desk, Kalon beside me, eyes full of hope. I handed him keys and belief. I never thought he'd hand me back betrayal. I called Franklin that night, an old friend from church, who still wore suits on Sundays, and remembered how to pray with his hands and act with his feet. He didn't sugarcoat it. This was filed 3 days after your surgery. Laurie, that's felony fraud. I swallowed the lump building in my throat. It wasn't the house that broke me. It was my son, the one I held through asthma attacks, who slept on my chest after his daddy died, who promised me he'd never let anybody take advantage of me. He just forgot to include himself in that promise. Gwen tried to hug me, but I held up a hand. I needed quiet more than comfort. When they're loud, I said, I get quiet. That's when I'm most dangerous. The next day, Kalon invited me to dinner, said he wanted to talk things out. I should have known. The table was set like a stage. Trishonda wore pearls and poured wine like we were strangers on a game show. My chair was lower than theirs. My plate was thin 2 green beans and a piece of dry chicken. She smiled through her teeth. We just thought you needed rest. You weren't in the best state to handle paperwork. Kalon nodded once, then stared into his plate like it held answers. They were rewriting the story, trying to convince me I had agreed, that I had signed my life away because I wanted to. Sometimes older folks forget they said yes, Trishonda added, swirling her wine. That one landed, but I didn't flinch. I chewed slow, swallowed slower, then I wiped my mouth, stood up and slid the chair in. I may be older, I said calmly, but my memory's sharp and so is my pen. Later that night, I walked through Gwen's backyard, wrapped in a borrowed coat. The wind was sharp, but my thoughts were sharper. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is emotional. Responding is strategy. I sat at Gwen's dining table, lit a single lamp, and started pulling things together. Mortgage documents, medical files, a notepad for a timeline. I remembered the nurse Kenya. I called the hospital, she answered, recognized my voice right away. Miss Laurie? I remember. You were alone, sedated. That's not consent. I'll say it if they ask. That gave me breath. I took screenshots of Trishonda's videos, the live stream, the comments, facts, not fire. If I'm going down, I'm taking the devil with me, but not with fire, with facts. 2 mornings later, I walked to the mailbox outside Gwen's. A certified letter sat at the top of the stack. I opened it on the porch. My hand stayed steady this time. Eviction notice, filed under my own name. I read every word. Then I started to laugh. Real slow, real low. They really think I'm that easy, I told Gwen, waving the paper. Then I went into the spare room and pulled out my old file folder from my suitcase. Yellowed label, handwritten. Estate plan, private. They forgot one thing. I still own my name. Evening had settled by the time I let myself back into the house. Gwen had insisted on dinner, her way of keeping me grounded, I suppose. But the moment I stepped inside my old study, the warmth from her table faded, replaced by the thick, unmoving air of memories I wasn't sure I wanted. The room looked the same, yet lonelier. Shelves still lined the walls, weighed down by books that had been with me longer than most people. Family photographs hung neatly, ones from school board meetings, graduations, church picnics. I stared at a picture of Rodnell holding baby Kalon on the front porch. Back when life was something you built, not something people try to unmake behind your back. I moved to the oak desk. My fingers knew the rhythm of it, even after all these years. Underneath the drawer, the key still rested where I'd hidden it decades ago. I slipped it into the lock, heart steady, breath held. When I opened the drawer and saw nothing, that breath turned sharp in my chest. Gone. Every single paper, mortgage titles, transaction receipts, documents that proved this house was mine not just in memory but on paper. I stared at the empty drawer, throat dry. They don't just erase titles, I muttered. They erase histories. Back when I gave that key to Rodnell as a teenager, I told him, if you ever doubt where I come from, look at these books. My life was built from pages, not promises. I believed those words then, but now I wasn't so sure. I pushed the drawer shut, slower than I meant to. My eyes landed on the closet. Without thinking, I opened it. The light inside flickered slightly, like the house was remembering with me. There it was, folded in a strange triangle, shoved between boxes Treshonda's bridal shawl. I pulled it out, held it up. Embroidery faded, a few threads pulled loose. The words were still visible. Wisdom lives in patience. I'd given that to her on the morning of her bridal shower. She stood in my kitchen, eyes misty, arms wide, saying, Mother, I'll always keep Kalon grounded, like you kept us. She promised me that. Now it looked like she kept the shawl not out of respect but as a trophy, a souvenir of a lie she helped to carry forward. My phone buzzed. Gwen? Mom, she said, breathless. I just found an old ledger from the garage. It's the one with your down payment in it. My stomach tightened. But your name is being scrubbed out. Every signature. Gone. I didn't answer right away. She added softly, They're trying to erase you. I let out a breath. They're gonna learn that I don't fade easy. The next day, I was still in Gwen's living room, sorting through old church programs when I saw it. The bulletin from last month's donation gala, front and center. With gratitude to the Mitchell family for their generous support, no mention of me. I scanned the photograph beneath it, Treshonda and Kailong on stage, all smiles. That was the year I donated $5,000. They used my money. My name? Buried. I flipped the page. Volunteer board names. I used to be chairwoman. Now, just support patron. No face, no name, no trace. That night, I joined the monthly video call. I didn't speak, just watched. Treshonda stood by the mic, glowing under the soft lights. "We want to thank our family supporters," she said, turning slightly toward the screen. Her eyes met the lens for a second too long. They want my legacy, I thought, without my voice. Still, I said nothing, just watched. A quiet that wasn't surrender, it was storage, energy saving up. Later, I called Kailong. "Did you erase me?" I asked. A pause. "Then, I'm trying to protect you, Mom." "From what? My own truth?" He sighed. "It wasn't my idea. Treshonda thought maybe keeping things simple would help the family's image." "The family's image? Is that what I've become a liability to manage?" He didn't answer. "You're a grown man, Kailon. I didn't raise you to let someone else pull your strings." "Mom, I stood by you when you were broke, when the lights got cut off, when your father passed. I never once asked if helping you would hurt my image." The silence on the line felt colder than it should have. Then came the click. He hung up. I stared at the blank screen, heart steady this time. The hurt was there, but it had calcified into something else, something solid. Hours passed. The house had gone quiet. Gwen had turned in. I sat by the window with a cup of tea, staring at the moon. Then I heard it soft, like a whisper on the floor. A shuffle. I walked to the door. An envelope was there. No return address, just sealed paper. Inside was a torn copy of the mortgage file. My signature, bold and untouched. And a note, "You deserve to know." My fingers trembled, but I held it firm. Someone knew. Someone wanted me to see. They left me a clue, I whispered. But why now? The question hung in the air. I spent the afternoon staring out Gwen's window, watching raindrops trace slow paths down the glass. I couldn't shake a creeping sense that something more rotten than this storm was brewing. I reached for the phone and dialed Kenya's number, voice tight. As the line clicked, I felt the hush of betrayal settle over me thicker than clouds outside. When Kenya's voice came through, crackly but sure, she said, "Mom, I checked the hospital system. Your emergency contact was changed. Now it's Treshonda Ray Bishop." My heart slammed. I swallowed so hard I heard it echo. Since when did I sign off on that? I leaned against the wall, voice low. Did I ever give that permission? Her silence answered me. Trust, one of the few things I thought I held firm, was gone. I recalled telling Gwen once, trust is the first thing they steal before they break your bones. That line now rattled in my head. I was no longer just a patient in their system. I was a subject they revised. My name, my records, redirected. In that moment, it hit me. This was bigger than a home. They were shaping my story. When Gwen brought over the last mortgage statement from my safe deposit box, I sat at her kitchen table, hands trembling. The sheet laid there, flat and cruel, showing missing payments I knew I made. Beneath the lines, in faded ink, my name was scratched out, and beside it, in clearer script, was Treshonda's. I ran a finger down the page, disbelief turning sweat. Gwen gasped beside me, her brow furrowed. "They rewrote your story," she whispered. I felt hollow inside, my signature, my trust, my history, all tampered with. I swallowed, firm. I may be old, I thought, but no one edits my life without consent. Memory slipped in. Treshonda's voice in my kitchen months ago, soft yet certain. "You never take control from me." I touched the name, scrawled there, her name replacing mine, and something fierce rose in me. They might steal my papers, but they couldn't steal my right to fight back. I dialed Treshonda's number, pressing it like an accusation. When she answered, her voice was smooth. "Why did you pull my name from the hospital records?" I asked. She paused, then answered, "You weren't in your right mind. I did it for your safety." Her words sounded rehearsed, gentle poison masked as care. I said plainly, "You don't protect by erasing me." Behind her, I heard silence, then Kalon's voice. He lifted the phone. "Mom," he said. I addressed him. "Son, was I ever asked?" he stammered. "Mom, I trusted her." The betrayal cut colder than the rain outside. Her defense, his confusion, they all folded around my brain. But I held the line. I didn't shout. I couldn't let them watch me unravel on the phone. I stayed steady. Later, I retreated to Gwen's kitchen. I laid papers flat, mortgage files, hospital records, old deeds. Beside them, my shawl, memories, screenshots from that live stream. I began to map out allies, Kenya, Gwen, Mr. Franklin, a clerk I trusted at the hospital. I called Mr. Franklin, my tone controlled but urgent. "I want a legal injunction tonight," I said. He warned me, "Be careful, you're stepping into dangerous territory." I nodded at the phone. I understood. But danger doesn't scare me. I wait past go to police now? Or wait to expose publicly? I chose to start small. Leak a trusted document to the church newsletter, just enough to plant a seed. One proof of tampering, one crack, I whispered to myself. Steely determination, fear underneath but fuel, not fault. The rain drummed harder outside the window. Twilight edged into night. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Someone from hospital called me. They asked if you are unfit to manage property. My fingers trembled as I read. I typed back. They'll regret that question. I walked to the window, watched the dark shape of my old home in silhouette. Rain whisked across the panes. I whispered in the hush. They started writing my obituary tonight. I reclaimed my story. I woke to sunlight. Seeping through window blinds, the air still wet from last night's rain. I sat on Gwen's living room couch, staring at a handful of church flyers she set beside me. One caught my eye. An announcement for New Zion's Donors Luncheon listing names I helped build. My name was missing, but theirs wasn't. Trishonda had arranged that the Mitchell family be honored. No mention of me. They'd erased me in public, made me invisible while claiming my legacy. I pressed my lips together. Gwen knocked on the doorframe, carrying a modest dress. "You'll need this," she said. "You still belong here." I looked at the gown. Simple, but respectable. My reflection flickered in the mirror wrinkles, white hair, eyes that had carried too much weight. But I straightened my shoulders. They'll see me again, but on my terms. The church hall buzzed when I slipped in, back row, far corner. Reverend Lytle's voice echoed through the space. He praised the Mitchell family support, spoke of years of giving, of service. My heart pounded. Trishonda stepped forward with a framed certificate. The inscription read, "To the Mitchells, for unwavering generosity, greatest patron of New Zion. No Laurie Dunbar. No recognition of years. I poured prayers, money, sweat into that church." I clenched my hands, but I didn't stand yet. I watched faces shift, some confused, some proudly nodding. When the certificate was raised, hush fell. I slipped forward. "Excuse me," I said, voice low. Would the announcer read the original donor list? Head snapped. Trishonda's lips parted. She hadn't expected that. The stage lights captured her flush. The announcer fumbled, leafing through papers. My heart throbbed. This was the moment I stepped from shadow. He cleared his throat and read a name. Zeltricia Dunbar. The room held its breath. A few murmurs rose, comforting voices in shock. I stood. "My name is Zeltrice, not Zeltricia." Trishonda's face twisted. She forced a laugh. "Oh, just a typo, a publicist error." I shook my head. "A typo that erased me for years." Rodnell sat beside her, eyes darting between us. The air turned, electric lines dividing. Some leaned forward, others shifted in place. I held the moment with silence. The weight of wrongdoing pressed on the room. I walked to the lectern, papers in hand. I stood behind this church when no one was looking. I said, voice clear, "I taught Sunday school, fixed roofs, paid tithe from a teacher's salary. I kept this building when storms took roofs. I gave so my face would be in that room, not erased behind my name." Trishonda interrupted sharp. "You always do this, make it about you." I looked at her, calm. "No, this is about what they tried to do to me." I held up Kenya's screenshot of the hospital record change, Gwen's ledger, Mr. Franklin's letter confirming alterations. I laid them on the lectern. Murmurs surged. Some nodded. A few faces closed. Trishonda's forced smile faltered. "You want proof?" I asked. "Here it is." I let silence land like a hammer. Applause broke. Some eyes glistened, others looked down. Trishonda stormed off stage, card in hand. I stood tall, Gwen at my side. Council members shifted, one glared, another avoided my gaze. I heard a whisper over shoulders. "They filed the property papers today." My breath caught. I held Gwen's hand, my voice quiet, certain. Then I'll file one more document under my name. Tonight, they thought they erased me. Tomorrow, they'd remember me. By the time dusk settled, Gwen pulled me aside in her living room. She looked grave. Her voice was low. Treshanda's already called the community board. She's claiming you forged documents. That hit me with a punch, unfair, but expected. I pressed my jaw. When a liar runs out of stories, she starts throwing stones. I gathered myself, hands steady. I printed the legal mortgage deed signed years ago, notarized by Mr. Franklin, every page crisp. Documents that carried weight, truth. My phone buzzed. Kenya's name flashed. She warned, "They plan to expose you on live stream tomorrow." I inhaled,